Before we dive in, tell me, where in the world are you watching from tonight? I love seeing how far our wild pack reaches. Drop your country or city in the comments, I'll be waiting to see. And if you're new here and crave dark werewolf romance, make sure you hit subscribe so you never miss a night of fire and fangs. Now, let's begin. The moon bled red that night. It hung above the clearing like a wound that refused to heal, staining the altar stone and every wolf gathered in its glow. Torches hissed in the cold air, their flames bending as if afraid to burn too brightly in the presence of the Alpha King. Silence pressed on the pack as they assembled in neat, trembling lines. Omegas knelt at the front, their gowns pale against the ash-drawn circle, heads bowed, throats bared. Tradition demanded this posture of surrender, each girl bent low, waiting to be chosen, waiting to be claimed. All but one. Celera did not kneel. Small, slender, her shadow looked breakable against the towering altar. But her eyes, bright silver, unyielding, burned hotter than the torches. She stood with her spine straight, her chin tilted just enough to be seen as defiance, her breath steady despite the weight of 1,000 stares. A ripple went through the crowd. Whispers hissed like snakes, foolish, reckless, dead by dawn. And then he came. Kale Draven, Alpha King, stepped into the circle. He did not stride, he prowled. Each step deliberate, heavy, the earth seeming to bend beneath his boots. His frame was vast, scarred from wars most wolves only spoke of in hushed stories. Broad shoulders wrapped in a cloak of black wolf pelts, hair bound at his neck like a warrior fresh from battle, eyes glowing gold in the moonlight. Every bow deepened. Warriors lowered their gazes. Elders bent stiff spines. Even the torch flames flickered as though retreating. Draven's presence consumed. And still, Celera stood. His gaze swept over the kneeling Omegas without pause. Each girl trembled harder under his stare, some daring to peek up only to drop their heads again. But when his eyes found the one who refused to bow, he stopped. The clearing froze. The night itself seemed to hold its breath. Celera met his gaze. For a moment, no one moved. No sound but the crackle of fire and the restless beat of wolves' hearts. Then, slow as thunder rolling over distant mountains, Draven began to walk. Gasps followed every step. He bypassed dozens of kneeling Omegas, each one who prayed to be chosen, each one who secretly prayed not to be destroyed by him. He walked past them as if they didn't exist. He stopped only when he stood before her. Celera tilted her chin higher. Her heart thundered, but she would not give them her fear. Not the pack. Not him. Draven's shadow swallowed her. His eyes blazed gold, unblinking, as though he could peel back her skin and see the wolf inside. His hand lifted, slow, deliberate. And every Omega behind her flinched, expecting violence. But he did not strike. He touched. 2 fingers beneath her chin, forcing her head up though she had never lowered it. The gesture was dominance without effort, a claim without words. "You do not kneel," he said. His voice was low, rough velvet, meant to be felt in the marrow. "I do not," she answered. A murmur of shock rippled through the circle. Elders stiffened. The herald nearly dropped his staff. Draven's lips curved, not a smile, but something darker. "Do you think yourself above tradition?" "No," Celera said, her voice steady though her wolf held in her chest. "I think myself above fear." The air thickened, heavy enough to crush lungs. For daring to speak, others had been cast out, broken, ended. But Draven only studied her, eyes narrowing with the curiosity of a predator deciding if prey was worth the chase. "Too small," someone whispered from the crowd. "She won't survive him." The words reached him. His gaze flicked briefly to the speaker, and the warrior flinched as though struck, head bowing lower in apology. Draven looked back to Celera, his gold eyes gleaming with hunger, or maybe wrath. "Too small," he repeated softly, tilting his head. "Do you think so, little flame?" Celera's jaw tightened. "I think size means nothing if you burn hot enough." Gasps again. A fool's words, some thought. A death sentence, others whispered. But the Alpha King's laugh rumbled through the clearing. Not warm, not amused, dark, dangerous, the sound of a storm breaking. He turned to the altar. With one massive hand, he seized her wrist. She gasped as his grip seared her skin, firm as iron, dragging her forward. The pack murmured in disbelief. He bypassed every trembling Omega who had offered herself, ignoring their lowered heads, ignoring the law that demanded order. He hauled Celera onto the altar stone itself and forced her to stand above them all. Whispers erupted, impossible. He cannot. She'll be broken. Draven's voice cut through like thunder. By fire, by blood, by bond, I claim her. Silence followed. A silence so absolute it felt like the world itself had stilled. The torches bent in the wind, the red moon bled brighter, and the pack stared in horror and awe. Celera's breath shuddered. He stood so close, his chest nearly pressed to hers, his grip burning her wrist. She should have been afraid. She should have begged for mercy. Instead, her lips parted and she whispered, I am not yours. Draven's golden eyes darkened. His free hand lifted, brushing a strand of hair from her cheek, his touch rough but deliberate, his mouth lowering until his breath seared her ear. Not yet, he murmured. But before this moon wanes, you will be. The herald lifted his staff, voice breaking as he tried to declare the rite complete. But his words faltered, drowned out by the sound of wolves howling in the distance, their cries echoing the storm that had just been unleashed. Celera stood on the altar, wrists bound by his grip, her defiance blazing even as the pack bowed in submission. The night was no longer sacred. It was war. And she had just been chosen as its prize. The throne hall was built for fear. Stone walls climbed high into shadow, etched with scars of old battles, their surfaces blackened from centuries of fire. Iron braziers lined the edges, their flames low, their smoke curling like ghosts toward the vaulted ceiling. At the far end, on a dais carved with snarling wolves, waited the throne of the Alpha King, massive, cruel, a seat of dominance rather than rule. Draven shoved the doors open with one hand. Their slam cracked through the chamber like thunder. Wolves stationed along the walls lowered their heads instantly. None dared look too long at the small figure trailing behind him, her wrist still trapped in his grip. Celera stumbled as he pulled her across the stone floor. Her arm ached where his fingers dug in, her pulse hammering against the iron of his hold. She fought the urge to wrench free. She knew if she did, he'd only tighten his grip. The great doors closed with a weighty boom, and the echo settled into silence. No pack. No whispers. Just her and him. Draven stopped at the foot of his throne. Slowly, deliberately, he released her wrist. Celera pulled her arm to her chest, rubbing the red marks his hand had left. She lifted her chin, meeting his gaze. You had no right. A low laugh rumbled from him. No right? He stepped closer, shadows clinging to his frame. I am the Alpha King. My word is law. When I claim, no voice in this realm dares contest me. I contest you, she snapped, surprising even herself with the sharpness in her voice. Draven stilled. His golden eyes narrowed, the glow within them deepening until they burned like molten metal. He prowled forward, each step slow, deliberate, predatory. Celera backed away until her shoulders collided with the cold stone wall. He planted one hand above her head, claws grazing the stone as he leaned close. The heat of him pressed against her, suffocating in its intensity. You think your defiance makes you strong? He murmured. It only makes me want to break you more. Celera's wolf shuddered inside her, torn between fear and something far more dangerous. She forced her voice steady. You can break bones. You can break flesh. But you'll never break my will. His mouth curved into a dark, wicked smile. We'll see. He lowered his head, his breath brushing her ear, sending a shiver down her spine. Every Omega who came before you bent in seconds. They begged for mercy before I even touched them. His voice dropped to a growl. Do you know what I did to their begging, little flame? She swallowed hard but refused to look away. Ignored it. His smile widened. Devoured it. The word vibrated against her skin, and though no hands held her now, she felt caged, trapped in his presence, pinned by nothing but the force of him. Her heart hammered, but her chin remained high. Then you will choke on me, Draven. His eyes flared brighter at the sound of his name on her lips. For a long moment, he said nothing, his gaze searing her, searching, dissecting. Then, suddenly, he pushed back, the space between them flooding with cold air. He strode toward a heavy oak chest beside the throne. From within, he drew lengths of black iron chain, their links clinking like muted thunder as he carried them back. Solera's stomach tightened as he approached, the metal gleaming dully in the firelight. Do you know why wolves kneel? He asked, his tone calm, dangerous. Because they fear, she said. Because they understand strength. He raised the chains. And you, Solera, will learn. Before she could move, his hand caught her wrist again. The chains wrapped around it, cold biting into her skin, his movements sure and unyielding. She struggled, but his grip was iron. He bound her other wrist, then fastened the chains high to the carved stone pillar beside the throne. The metal rattled as she tugged, but it held fast. She glared at him, breath ragged. Coward. Binding me proves nothing. Draven stood before her, golden eyes blazing, head tilted like a predator admiring prey caught in his trap. Binding you proves everything. You stand because you think you cannot fall. But every flame dies when denied air. He stepped closer, so close his chest brushed hers with each breath. One clawed finger traced the line of her jaw, tilting her chin until her eyes locked on his. And yet, he murmured, there's something in you that refuses to flicker. Something I haven't seen in years. Solera's lips trembled, though she forced them into a sharp smile. Afraid you can't break me? His laugh was soft, dangerous. Eager to be tested, then. The chains rattled again as she pulled, the iron biting her wrists. Her wolf snarled inside, demanding freedom, demanding defiance. And yet, beneath the defiance, heat coiled, dark, unwelcome, undeniable. Draven leaned in until his lips hovered a breath from hers. You will break, little flame. Not because I force you. But because you'll burn yourself out trying to fight me. Solera's chest rose sharply, her silver eyes locked to his molten gold. Then watch me burn. The silence that followed was thick, electric. His gaze dropped briefly to her lips, then returned to her eyes. For a heartbeat, the world narrowed to that space between them, a breath from ruin, a breath from surrender. Then Draven pulled back abruptly. His voice carried across the chamber like a decree. 10 heartbeats. That's all I give you. Run. If I catch you, you are mine beyond all question. If you escape, his lips curved in a predator's grin. Then you've earned your freedom. Her blood ran cold. The chains fell away as he unlatched them with one sharp twist. Her wrists throbbed, raw from the iron. She stumbled forward, staring at him in disbelief. You'd hunt me? I always hunt what's mine. The doors groaned open at his command, and the dark forest stretched beyond, lit by the blood moon. He folded his arms, calm, confident, every inch the predator at ease in his power. 10. Solera's pulse spiked. Her wolf screamed at her to run. She darted toward the doors, bare feet slapping against stone. 8. The cold night air hit her lungs as she sprinted into the woods, branches snapping against her skin, heart a wild drum. 5. She pushed faster, deeper into shadow, the moonlight chasing her through the trees. 2. The count stopped. Silence. Solera's chest heaved as she pressed her back against a tree, straining to hear. The forest whispered, leaves shifting, branches creaking. No footsteps. No sound. Then, breath. Hot against her neck. She spun, but too late. His body caged hers, pinning her to the bark, golden eyes blazing. Run all you want, Draven growled, his voice low, feral, vibrating through her bones. The hunt always ends the same. His mouth hovered at her ear, his claws braced on the tree around her head. You're mine. The forest swallowed her whole. Branches whipped her face, roots clawed at her ankles, shadows shifted like wolves with teeth. The blood moon painted the canopy in crimson, turning every tree into a sentinel watching her run. Solera's lungs burned, her chest heaved, but she didn't stop. She couldn't. The Alpha King had given her 10 heartbeats. She had stolen every one of them, and now every step was stolen time. Her bare feet slammed against wet earth, mud sucking at her heels. The air was sharp with pine and frost, each breath like shards of glass in her throat. Somewhere behind her, she imagined the sound of claws scraping bark, a breath hot and ragged in pursuit. But when she glanced over her shoulder, there was only silence. That silence was worse than any roar. She pressed harder, deeper into the woods, her wolf howling inside her. Run. Run. But the deeper she went, the heavier the air became, thick with his scent, smoke, steel, storm. A twig snapped. Not beneath her. Behind her. She froze, pressing her back against a tree. Her pulse thundered so loud she thought the whole forest could hear it. Nothing. The silence stretched, too long, too heavy. She drew a sharp breath. Then, warmth. A whisper of heat against the back of her neck. Solera spun, claws half bared. But he was already there. Draven's frame loomed, blotting out the blood moon. His golden eyes burned through shadow, molten and merciless. His lips curved into a slow, feral grin. Did you really think, he growled, pressing one hand to the bark beside her head, that you could outrun me? She struck before fear could take her. Her nails slashed across his chest, catching fabric, tearing skin. A line of crimson bloomed against him. The Alpha King didn't flinch. His laugh was low, guttural, rumbling like thunder through her bones. Good, he murmured, catching her wrist in his hand. Fight me. He spun her, her back slamming into the tree. His body caged hers, heat pouring from him like fire. She thrashed, snarling, her wolf clawing inside her chest. The forest roared with her heart. You call yourself flame, Draven whispered, his lips grazing her ear, then burn for me. She shoved against him, teeth bared. I'll never bow. His hand closed around her throat, not crushing, just holding, forcing her gaze up to his. Golden eyes burned into silver. For a heartbeat, neither moved. The storm between them crackled hotter than the torches back in the circle. Then I'll make you scream standing, he said. Her breath caught. Rage. Fear. Desire. All tangled into a wildfire beneath her skin. The forest itself seemed to lean closer as he lowered his head, his mouth hovering a hair from hers. His growl vibrated through her bones. Run again. I'll give you 5 heartbeats this time. He released her throat. Stepped back. His eyes glowed brighter than the moon itself. Solera didn't wait. She bolted. The forest blurred, branches clawing, shadows tearing, the wind screaming in her ears. Her wolf surged, pushing her faster than she'd ever run. Leaves scattered, roots cracked beneath her feet. Behind her came no footsteps. No sound at all. That silence stalked her more than his growl ever could. Her breath came ragged. Her body ached. Still, she pushed deeper into the crimson woods, desperate, wild. If she could reach the river, if she could cross it. A weight slammed her down. Her body hit the ground, breath knocked from her lungs, soil cold against her cheek. Strong hands flipped her onto her back, pinning her wrists above her head. Draven's face hovered above hers, sweat glistening on his temple, golden eyes feral, his chest rising and falling like a storm caged in flesh. 5 heartbeats, he growled. You lasted 3. She gasped, struggling against his hold. Then kill me. Do it. he snarled, lowering his mouth until his teeth grazed her jaw. Kill you? No, little flame. I'll do something far worse. His grip tightened, forcing her wrists into the dirt. His breath seared her skin, his presence drowning her. She wanted to resist, to fight, but her body betrayed her, heart racing, breath shivering, heat blooming through every nerve. You'll hate me, she spat. His grin sharpened, wolfish. You already do. Their gazes locked, her defiance burning silver, his dominance glowing gold. For a moment, the whole world seemed to collapse into that single clash, fire against fire, storm against flame. Then his voice dropped to a whisper, dark silk laced with command. Say it. She shook her head, trembling. Say what? That you're mine. Her lips parted, 1,000 words caught in her throat, rage, denial, surrender. Her wolf snarled, but her body trembled beneath him, betraying truths she dared not speak. Draven's growl deepened, vibrating through her ribs, through the earth itself. If you don't, I'll hunt you again. And again. Until the night ends. Until there's nothing left of you but flame turned to ash. The chains of his gaze held her captive as surely as the iron had. She swallowed hard, her voice breaking. I'm not yours. His mouth curved into a predator smile. Not yet. And with those words, he hauled her to her feet, dragging her back toward the black spire of the throne hall, the blood moon watching like a cruel witness above them. The hunt had ended. The claiming had only just begun. The throne hall smelled of smoke and iron when they returned. Draven shoved the doors wide, dragging Celera with him, her wrists still raw from chains, her body trembling from the hunt. Wolves lined the walls again, their heads lowering as their king entered, but curiosity crackled beneath their fear. Whispers buzzed, she defied him and still breathes. He did not sit the throne. Not yet. He hauled her up the dais steps and pressed her against the carved stone beside it, one arm braced beside her head, his chest nearly crushing her. She should have felt broken. She should have cowered. Instead, her chin lifted once more, her silver eyes gleaming with exhausted fire. Draven's lips curved. Still standing, he murmured. Good. I prefer prey that doesn't collapse too quickly. But before she could reply, a voice cut through the chamber. She is unworthy. The words dropped like steel into the silence. Celera's gaze snapped to the speaker. Kaelin, the beta. Broad-shouldered, handsome in the way that made weaker wolves trust him, his dark hair tied back, his smirk sharp as a blade. He stepped from the shadows, the insignia of his rank gleaming on his cloak. His eyes, however, were fixed not on his king, but on her. She isn't fit to stand beside you, Kaelin said, his voice smooth, confident. She's fragile. Defiant. She'll fracture the pack before she ever bears you heirs. A dangerous growl rolled from Draven's chest. Choose your next words carefully, Beta. But Kaelin didn't bow. He smiled, bold as fire. I would have made a better match for her. His gaze slid over Celera with hunger that made her stomach twist. I would have cherished her, not dragged her through chains and hunts. She deserves a mate who knows reverence, not ruin. The chamber froze. No wolf spoke against the beta. No one moved. Celera's breath caught. For the first time, she felt fear, not of Draven, but of the dangerous ambition in Kaelin's eyes. Draven descended the steps slowly, each stride like thunder. The pack held its breath. When he stopped before his beta, silence bled into something taut, ready to snap. You envy my claim, Draven said softly, though his golden eyes blazed hotter than fire. You covet what is mine. Kaelin's lips curled. I could give her what you never could. Gentleness. Choice. The words struck Celera's chest like arrows. For a heartbeat, she almost believed him. Almost. Draven's laugh was low and merciless. Gentleness? His claws flexed at his sides. Choice? He leaned in until his breath ghosted over Kaelin's face. She chose when she defied me. And still, she is mine. Kaelin's jaw tightened, but he didn't retreat. If she is truly yours, then let her say it. His gaze cut to Celera. Say it. Tell the pack you belong to him and not to me. Every head in the chamber turned toward her. Torches hissed. The air thickened. Celera's throat closed. She wanted to scream her defiance. She wanted to spit in both their faces. But her wolf howled under Draven's molten gaze, trembling, trapped between pride and instinct. Draven saw the hesitation. His lips curved into a cruel smile. He turned to the beta, voice carrying like a blade through the hall. You want proof? Before Kaelin could answer, Draven moved. Faster than sight, his hand clamped around Celera's wrist, yanking her forward. With a single brutal motion, he spun her, pressing her back against his chest, his arm locking tight around her waist. His other hand gripped her jaw, forcing her head back so her throat was bared to the entire court. The hall gasped. Celera's pulse thundered under his palm, her body rigid with shock. Draven's voice growled low into her ear, loud enough for all to hear. Watch closely, Beta. Watch what you can never touch. His mouth descended on her throat. Not soft. Not merciful. His teeth grazed, pressed, then sank just enough to leave a mark, visible, dark, undeniable. A claim in front of every wolf who watched. Celera gasped, a sound torn between fury and something far more dangerous. Her body trembled, heat flooding her veins, her wolf howling in surrender even as her mind screamed to resist. Draven released her only to grip her chin, forcing her gaze outward. Speak, he commanded. Her lips trembled. I. Speak, he snarled again, his golden eyes blazing into hers. Her defiance shattered under the weight of his voice. Her breath broke into words. I am his. The chamber erupted. Gasps, snarls, whispers. The pack shuddered at the sound of it. Kaelin's face twisted in fury. His fists clenched, his wolf straining beneath his skin. You manipulated her. This isn't truth. Draven's growl shook the walls. In a blur, he released Celera and lunged at his beta. His hand closed around Kaelin's throat, lifting him off his feet. The beta clawed at his grip, his legs kicking, his face darkening with lack of air. You dared, Draven roared, his voice both man and wolf, echoing through the hall. You dared lay claim to what is mine? He slammed Kaelin into the stone floor. The impact cracked like thunder. Dust plumed into the air as the beta coughed, gasping. Draven leaned low, teeth bared, his claws pressing into the skin of his beta's chest. I should tear your heart out where you kneel. Kaelin wheezed, choking on words. She'll never last. Draven pressed harder. The beta screamed as claws pierced skin. Blood welled bright against his tunic. Then she will die mine, Draven snarled. His voice thundered across the chamber, silencing every whisper. Not yours. Not anyone's. Mine. Celera's breath shuddered. Her wrists ached. Her body trembled, not from fear of Draven, but from the terrifying truth. She had spoken the words. She had told them all. She was his. The blood moon rose higher, swelling in the sky until the clearing itself seemed bathed in molten crimson. Its light fell heavy across the pack gathered in the sacred circle, painting their eyes red, their fur glowing with fire. No wolf dared speak. The air was too thick, every breath choked with the scent of ash, blood, and fate. Celera stood on the altar stone again, wrists raw from chains, throat burning from the mark Draven had left in front of the court. Her heart hammered so violently she thought it might burst free. Beside her, Kael Draven stood tall, his golden eyes glowing brighter than the torches. His scars caught the moonlight, gleaming like battle sigils carved into his flesh. He did not look at the pack. He did not need to. His gaze never left her. The herald trembled as he lifted his staff. His voice wavered as he spoke the ancient rite, on this night of crimson moon, the Alpha King binds by blood. The chosen will be marked. The bond eternal. No wolf may break it. Solera's wolf snarled inside her chest, frantic, panicked. Run. Fight. Refuse. Her hands clenched at her sides, nails cutting into her palms. Draven stepped closer, so close the heat of him seared her skin. His breath brushed her ear. This is your last chance to kneel. She lifted her chin, trembling, but unbroken. I will never kneel. His lips curved into a smile that promised ruin. Then I will make you fall standing. He seized her hand, his claws pricking her palm until blood welled in a small, bright pool. Gasps rippled through the circle. Solera hissed at the sting, but she did not pull away. Draven raised her hand to his mouth. His tongue swept across the wound, hot, slow, deliberate. The sight alone made the pack shift restlessly, a chorus of low growls and shocked murmurs. But his eyes never left hers as he drank the taste of her. The herald stammered, the Alpha accepts. Draven cut him off with a snarl. She is not bound until I take her fully. The pack froze. No one dared interrupt. He dragged her against his chest, his other hand gripping her jaw, tilting her throat back. His fangs grazed the soft skin just beneath her ear. She gasped, her body trembling between resistance and the fire that flared wherever his mouth touched. Once I mark you here, he murmured, his voice dark velvet, you are mine beyond death. Your wolf will answer only to me. Your heat will burn only for me. Every cry, every breath, every shred of your soul, mine. Her heart pounded like a drum. Her lips parted, the defiance still burning. Then take it. If you dare. His growl rolled through the night, deep and feral. And then his teeth sank into her throat. Pain flared white-hot. Her scream split the clearing, raw and piercing. The pack howled, some in outrage, others in awe, their voices rising to the blood moon. Solera's body shook violently, her knees buckling, but his arm locked around her waist, holding her upright. Her wolf clawed against the bond, fighting, resisting, but the fire seared deeper, branding bone and soul alike. She felt him invade her, his dominance, his hunger, his essence sinking into every corner of her being. Her vision blurred. Her voice cracked. And beneath the agony, something else bloomed. Heat. Wild, consuming, undeniable. The bond laced it into her veins, tying it to him, chaining it forever. When Draven pulled back, blood glistened on his lips, his eyes molten gold, feral and triumphant. He raised his head and roared to the pack, the sound so savage the ground itself seemed to quake. She is mine. The echo carried through the forest, silencing every dissenting howl. Wolves lowered their heads in submission. Even Kalen, still bruised and bleeding at the circle's edge, dared not lift his gaze. Draven turned back to her, his thumb brushing the fresh wound at her throat. She swayed in his grip, her body trembling, her breath ragged. Silver eyes met gold, defiance dimming but not extinguished. You think this bond makes me yours, she whispered hoarsely. But it chains you to me as well. You'll never be free of me, Draven. For a heartbeat, silence. Then his laugh rolled low and cruel. Good. I don't want freedom. He lifted her easily into his arms, carrying her off the altar as the pack parted in silence, heads bowed. Each step was deliberate, heavy, as though every wolf should memorize the sight of her blood against his mouth, her body trembling in his hold. The doors of the hall slammed shut behind them, cutting off the whispers, the howls, the world outside. Inside, Draven lowered her onto the cold throne, the seat carved for kings and soaked in blood for generations. He braced his hands on the armrests, caging her in, his body towering over hers. Now, he murmured, his lips grazing her ear, his voice dripping with fire and possession, the court knows. The pack knows. The moon knows. You are mine. Solera's chest rose sharply, her throat aching, her voice trembling but sharp as a blade. And still, I will not kneel. His grin sharpened, hunger blazing in his eyes. Then I'll spend the rest of eternity forcing you to. The first alarm bell split the dawn. Its clang rolled through the stone halls like thunder. Outside, the courtyard erupted with snarls and the clash of steel. Celera jerked awake on the throne, her throat still aching from the mark of the blood moon, her body trembling with the memory of Draven's relentless claim. For one fragile moment, she thought it was only a dream. Then the second bell rang, and the ground itself trembled with the roar of wolves. Draven was already on his feet, golden eyes burning like fire through shadow. His claws flexed at his sides, his chest heaving with the scent that poured through the cracks of the hall, blood and smoke. They've come, he growled, his voice both man and wolf. Rogues. They mean to take what is mine. The doors burst inward before she could move. 3 wolves stormed the throne hall, eyes red with fury, blades gleaming in their hands. Their snarls echoed against the stone. Celera gasped, stumbling to her feet. One lunged for her, teeth bared. She screamed. Draven was faster. His body slammed into the rogue mid-leap, claws ripping into fur and flesh. The wolf shrieked as Draven's jaws closed around its throat. A sickening crunch echoed through the hall as he tore it open. Blood sprayed across the stone floor, hot and metallic. The second came from behind, blade raised. Draven spun, catching the arm mid-swing. With a single savage twist, he broke it backwards. The wolf's cry of agony filled the chamber, cut short when Draven's claws raked across its chest, splitting it open in a spray of crimson. Celera pressed herself against the throne, trembling. Her breath came in ragged gasps, her wolf screaming inside her chest. She had seen violence before, but this was slaughter. The third rogue hesitated, blade shaking in his hand. For a heartbeat, he looked ready to flee. Draven's lips curled back, blood dripping from his teeth. Run, he snarled. The rogue bolted. He didn't make it 3 steps before Draven's claws ripped through his spine, dragging him to the floor in a heap of twitching limbs. The hall fell silent, save for Celera's frantic heartbeat. But the silence didn't last. From beyond the doors came the rising chorus of howls, dozens, maybe hundreds. The palace shook with the force of them. Shadows swarmed the courtyards, their claws raking against stone, their voices chanting one word again and again, kill the king. Celera's legs buckled. There are too many. Draven turned to her, his face and chest painted in blood, his golden eyes brighter than flame. Stay behind me. The doors shattered inward again, and this time the rogues poured through in a tide of fur and steel. Celera screamed as blades flashed, as claws slashed through the air. Draven roared. The sound wasn't human. It shook the walls, rattled the braziers, split the air itself. His wolf surged to the surface, his muscles rippling, his teeth lengthening into fangs, his nails curving into claws. His golden eyes burned feral, his chest heaving with a beast too powerful to cage. The rogues hesitated, but only for a breath. Then they rushed him. He met them head-on. The first fell to his claws, throat ripped out in a single slash. The second was thrown against the wall so hard its skull split open. A third's blade clanged uselessly against Draven's arm before his jaws crushed its neck. Celera stood frozen, horror and awe twisting in her chest. Every movement he made was raw savagery, every kill swift and merciless. The hall became a slaughterhouse, blood splattering the stone, bodies piling at his feet. Still, they came. Celera backed toward the dais, clutching her chest. Her wolf howled, but her human heart hammered with terror. She wanted to look away, but she couldn't. She had never seen power like this, feral, unstoppable, drenched in blood. Then one slipped past him. A rogue, lean and fast, darted through the chaos and lunged for her. Its blade gleamed in the crimson light. She tried to scream, tried to run, but it was too fast. The steel bit into her arm. Her cry split the hall as the blade tore deep, hot blood spilling down her skin. Draven froze. His head snapped toward her, his nostrils flaring, catching the scent of her blood. Something inside him broke. His roar shattered the hall, louder than thunder, darker than any storm. He was on the rogue in a breath, his claws tearing at limb from limb. He didn't stop at the kill, he shredded, ripped, devoured, until nothing was left but blood and ruin. Then he turned to her. Celera pressed her hand to her wound, trembling. "I'm fine." Draven's eyes blazed brighter, molten gold drowning in red. He stalked toward her, his chest heaving, his lips curling back to reveal blood-stained fangs. "No. You bleed." He seized her wrist, prying her hand from the wound despite her hiss of pain. He stared at the crimson dripping down her arm, his breath ragged. And then he bent his head. "Draven, don't." His tongue dragged slowly across the cut, hot and deliberate. Celera gasped, her knees nearly giving out. His growl vibrated against her skin as he licked again, slower, savoring. Her voice cracked. "That's forbidden." He lifted his head, lips smeared with her blood, his eyes feral. "Your blood. Your pain. It drives me mad." Celera's breath shuddered. Her wolf trembled, torn between terror and dark, unbearable heat. Draven's hands gripped her shoulders, pulling her against him, his voice a guttural growl. "They came to take you. To steal what is mine. Now your blood seals it. Not just your body. Not just your soul. All of you." His mouth crashed against hers, copper and heat mingling. She whimpered against him, her body betraying her once more, shivering in his grip. Outside, the howl still raged. Inside, Celera realized the truth. She had seen him kill. She had seen him devour. She had felt his teeth in her throat, his blood in her veins. And still, she burned for him. The siege was over. The palace floor was slick with blood, the scent of iron and smoke clinging to every breath. Bodies of rogues lay scattered like broken dolls, their lifeless eyes reflecting the last flames of battle. The hall itself trembled with silence, no more steel clashing, no more howls. Only the steady drip of blood from Draven's claws as he strode through the carnage. Celera staggered behind him, her arm still wrapped in torn cloth where his tongue had sealed the wound. Her legs trembled, her throat ached from screaming, her body carried the weight of marks and bruises that painted her like a canvas of violence and desire. Yet worse than the ache was the way her wolf quivered inside her chest, not from fear, but from craving. The pack had gathered in the great hall, drawn by the howls of battle. Warriors pressed against the walls, Omegas knelt in trembling lines, and Betas bowed low. But their eyes were fixed on her, wide with shock, sharp with judgment. She survived the Alpha King. She carries his mark. She bleeds and still walks beside him. Whispers licked the walls like fire. "It's unnatural, she should have broken, no she-wolf lasts this long." Draven heard them all. He didn't care. His golden eyes gleamed like molten suns as he mounted the dais steps and stopped before the massive throne carved from black stone and bone. It loomed like a god of its own, scarred from centuries, etched with wolves and eternal snarl, a seat that had never known mercy. Draven turned, his bloodied hand catching Celera's wrist. His grip was unyielding, dragging her forward despite her stumble. Her breath came sharp, her wolf snarling within, but she could not resist. He pulled her onto the dais, and the pack collectively gasped. She had no place there. No Omega had ever been allowed near that throne. Draven's voice rolled through the silence, dark velvet, sharp as a blade. "You whisper she is unworthy. That she is too small. Too weak. That she will shatter beneath me." He yanked her closer, his grip bruising her waist, his breath scorching her ear. "Then watch as I prove you wrong." He pushed her back. The throne caught her, its cold stone biting into her skin as she collapsed against it. She braced her hands against the carved arms, trembling as Draven loomed above her, his shadow drowning her in fire and fury. Celera's lips parted, defiance flickering in her silver eyes. "You can't." His hand seized her jaw, forcing her head back, bearing the mark he had already burned into her throat. His golden gaze seared into hers. Can't? His growl shook the hall. I am the Alpha King. There is nothing I cannot take. Nothing I will not claim. His words carried, echoing to every wolf in the chamber. He pressed closer, his chest caging her, his scent thick, intoxicating, smoke, blood, storm. The pack watched, every breath held, as he lowered his mouth to her throat and dragged his tongue slowly across the mark he had left there. Her body jerked, a whimper tearing from her lips. She bit it back, desperate not to give him the satisfaction. But Draven's grin sharpened. You hear that? He said to the pack, his voice low, cruel. Even her defiance breaks when I touch her. Even her fire bends beneath mine. He gripped her wrists, pinning them to the throne's arms, binding her in place with nothing but his strength. She writhed, her wolf clawing to resist, but the weight of him, the heat of his gaze, the iron of his hold, there was no escape. Her voice cracked, raw and trembling. You'll shame yourself before them all. His laughter was savage. No, little flame. I'll crown myself. His mouth crashed against hers, brutal, devouring. She gasped, her body arching despite her pride, the sound swallowed into his kiss. His tongue forced past her lips, claiming, dominating, while his claws scraped down her sides, leaving thin trails of fire in their wake. Gasps rippled through the pack. Some turned away in outrage, others leaned forward, entranced, but none dared move. Celera twisted, moaning against his mouth, her pride crumbling into sound. Draven tore free, his lips wet, his golden eyes blazing with triumph. Say it, he growled, his voice carrying like thunder. Say before the pack whose you are. She shook her head, silver eyes gleaming with stubborn fire. Never. The chamber held its breath. Draven's growl rumbled through the throne itself. He pressed his forehead to hers, his voice low, dangerous, every word dripping with fire. Then I'll take the words from your throat. His mouth descended again, biting, kissing, marking, her lips, her jaw, her throat, each nip harder, each mark darker, until bruises bloomed like brands across her skin. Her cries filled the hall, raw and helpless, echoing against the stone walls. The pack trembled. Warriors shifted uneasily, Omegas whimpered, Betas bowed lower. And still, Celera resisted. Her body shook, her nails clawed at the throne's arms, her wolf snarled against the bond. You'll never own me, she gasped, trembling, her voice breaking. Draven's eyes glowed brighter, feral and relentless. I already do. He released one wrist only to seize her jaw again, forcing her to look at the pack. Her lips trembled, blood trickling from the bite on her throat. Look at them, he snarled. Look at the court, your pack, your betters. Let them see the truth, that no matter your defiance, no matter your fire, you burn only for me. Her chest heaved, her lips parted, a sound clawing its way free, half sob, half moan. The pack gasped. Draven's grin sharpened into something wolfish, victorious. He leaned close, his words for her alone, though every wolf heard them. Now, little flame. Give me the words, or I'll tear them from you before the blood moon fades. Her pride crumbled under the weight of the bond, her body betraying her with every trembling gasp. Tears blurred her vision. Her voice broke into the silence. Yours. The word was ragged, trembling, but it carried through the hall like fire. Say it again, Draven demanded, his growl vibrating against her skin. Her breath shuddered. Yours. Always, yours. The throne shook as the pack howled, their voices rising into the crimson night. Some held in awe, some in outrage, but none could deny what they had witnessed. The Alpha King had claimed her. Publicly. Irrevocably. Draven's lips curved into a savage smile. He bent, pressing a final brutal kiss to her mouth, sealing her words into blood and stone. When he pulled back, his golden eyes burned like suns, his chest heaving. He raised his voice, his roar shaking the chamber itself. You see her fire. You see her defiance. And still, she kneels to me in voice, in bond, in soul. She is my Omega. My queen. Touch her, and you'll answer to my claws. The pack roared in response, a chorus of fear and submission. Draven turned back to her, his lips brushing her ear, his whisper soft enough that only she could hear. Now they know. Now there is no escape. Solera's chest rose sharply, her lips trembling, her wolf shivering under the bond. She hated him. She burned for him. She was his. And the throne itself bore witness. The throne hall still reeked of blood. The rogues' bodies had been dragged out, but the scent lingered, copper and smoke clinging to the stone like a curse. Torches flickered in their sconces, their flames hissing low, throwing shadows that twisted like hungry beasts across the walls. Solera sat slumped against the throne, her skin still damp with sweat, her throat raw from the screams Draven had forced from her before the entire pack. Her body bore his marks, bruises like chains across her wrists, bites burning along her throat and shoulder. She had thought the silence after the hells would soothe her. It didn't. It was heavier. It carried judgment. The pack had dispersed, but their whispers lingered like ghosts. She is too fragile. She will doom us. She bends, but does not kneel. She is not one of us. She is cursed. She pressed her palms to her eyes, trembling. She could still taste his blood on her tongue. She could still feel the heat of his wolf pressed into her soul. The bond burned hotter than fire, dragging every thought back to him. She hated it. She hated herself for the way her body betrayed her. The sound of boots echoed across the chamber. She lowered her hands just as Draven appeared in the torchlight, shirt torn open, his chest streaked with dried crimson. His golden eyes burned like molten suns, unblinking, unyielding. He stopped before the throne, his shadow swallowing her whole. You think they whisper against you, he said softly, his voice a low growl that filled the silence. You think their doubt matters. Solera's lips parted, her voice hoarse. They will never accept me. Draven leaned down, his hand gripping her chin, forcing her gaze up to his. They don't have to. I do. Her chest rose sharply, her breath trembling. You chain me. You bleed me. You break me before them. And you call that acceptance? His smile was cruel. I call it truth. The bond does not lie. You are mine. The court knows it. The moon knows it. Even your wolf knows it. She wanted to deny him. To spit in his face. But the bond coiled tighter, her wolf howling low inside her chest, trembling beneath his dominance. Tears blurred her vision as her lips formed words she didn't want to give him. I will never love you. The silence after was sharp as a blade. Draven's grin faded into something darker, more dangerous. His thumb dragged along her jaw, slow and deliberate. Love, he murmured, almost amused. I don't need your love. I need your surrender. Before she could answer, the chamber doors creaked. Kalen stepped inside. His neck was bandaged, his eyes shadowed, but his pride was not gone. He bowed, too shallow. Alpha. His gaze slid to Solera, sharp, hungry. The pack murmurs. They fear her. They say she is cursed. They say she will bring ruin. Draven straightened slowly, his golden eyes narrowing. And what do you say, Beta? Kalen's lips curved into something between a smile and a sneer. I say even kings can bleed. And no throne stands forever when it's built on fire. The silence that followed was suffocating. Solera's chest tightened. She could feel it in her bones, the truth beneath his words. The pack was restless. Fearful. Rebellion whispered in the shadows, and she was its spark. Draven's growl rumbled low, promising violence. Careful, Kalen. The beta bowed again, his smile lingering. Always, my king. When he left, the air stayed poisoned with the taste of defiance. Draven turned back to her. His hand slid to her throat, pressing just enough to make her gasp. His eyes burned into hers, golden and feral. They can rise. They can plot. They can bleed. None of it matters. Because no matter what they take, your voice, your crown, even your life, you are mine. Always. Her breath caught, her wolf trembling, her body betraying her once more with heat curling low in her belly. She hated him. She wanted him. She could never escape him. The torches hissed. The silence deepened. And somewhere beyond the stone walls, wolves howled, not in loyalty, but in warning. The bond tightened like a chain around her throat. And Celera realized with a shudder that this was not the end. It was only the beginning. And that's where we leave Celera, branded, bound, and drowning in whispers of rebellion. But tell me, do you think she'll ever escape Draven's claws, or will the bond consume her completely? Let me know in the comments below. I'm dying to see your theories. And if you want part 2, make sure you subscribe, because this story is far from over.